I'm Jeffrey Cologne, and this is Disruptive FM, the marketing podcast for eccentric minds. Welcome to another edition of the podcast for eccentric minds, creative right-brainers, hybrid thinkers, data punks, growth hackers, and more. Disruptive FM. I'm your host, Jeffrey Cologne, broadcasting from the wonderful campus of Microsoft in Redmond, Washington. Hope you're having a good week. It's been an exciting week. Always something going on with electronic media. Hard to get bored in this world anymore. The intimacy of earbuds in the content-polluted world. One of the topics we'll be talking about on this week's episode. We'll also be talking about things that allow us to imagine, innovate, and inspire. I'll actually read some quotes from a really great book that we created a couple of years ago when I was at an agency called Electric Artists. And it got me thinking about this because this is a tangible book. I'm holding it right now. You might be able to actually hear the pages flutter. As we continue our foray into the analog world, always find that to be exciting. Great way to connect with people. And of course, let's continue the conversation. You shouldn't be a wallflower. It is the 21st century after all, so make sure you follow us on @DisruptiveFM on Twitter. Or you can follow me at DJGEOFFE. That's DJ Jeffy. Or, of course, you can follow me on LinkedIn under my real name, Jeffrey Cologne. That's with a G, the British phonetic spelling. So, all this content marketing, all this data exhaust, all this pollution that's out there, gets me thinking more and more about how we really connect with people, I think, in the 21st century. And what's the best way to do it? I mean, there's so many different forms of media that we can use now as communicators and marketers and advertisers. It got me thinking there really is no one best form to use. There's a variety of different forms that we can use, and we should use as many of them to our advantage as possible in order to connect with people, because that's ultimately what we're always trying to do, is connect and understand people. But this past week, I really got thinking a little bit more about how audio allows us to connect. And the reason being is unfortunate, of course, due to the circumstances behind the death of one of the great rock idols and one of my favorite artists, David Bowie. I just put my headphones on and really started to listen to a lot of music, especially a lot of his music, and was really able to connect, I think, in a way that other forms of media just didn't allow me to connect, as much as the music allowed me to, I think, to connect with him. And I think it was a wonderful week for me to realize that I could have intimacy with headphones and actually connect with some of the artists that I really love. But at the same time, and I could listen to music for endless hours. I mean, I remember thinking back when I had a hi-fi stereo in my room back in the 80s, and I think I got my first one in like 1982. And it was built by Emerson. And big ups to you, props to you if you remember Emerson, the electronics company. And it was a good stereo too, good speakers with that stereo. But it had a turntable, and most of the music that I connected to I bought on long player and vinyl, which was always wonderful. But I never had headphones. There really wasn't a need to have headphones back then because it was just easy to connect with, or I should say, just you'd blare your music. It was in your bedroom. Usually my mom would come upstairs and say, hey, if you're going to play it this loud, at least shut the door so it doesn't, not everybody else hears it. And in some occasions she would put the arrow or the little permanent marker on the stereo saying, hey, you can never turn it up past this little line right here. That way she didn't have to hear it downstairs, so she could listen to her Muzak station. And big ups to you if you remember what Muzak was. M-U-Z-A-K. I'm dating myself here in some respects. But something changed with how we integrated our evolved, or I should say related to audio. And I think a lot of that shift happened in two areas. One was Sony created the Walkman, which allowed us to really go from the boombox era or the stereo era to one where we were more mobile. And of course, what drove the Walkman was the cassette tape and the ability to make mixtapes and create and be sort of your own DJ or your own program director, I should say. And I always enjoyed that because I would make a lot of mixtapes for people, knowing that they would put them in their Walkman and play them. Think about the name Walkman for a second. That is the most sexist name in the world. Walkman. I mean, it was the, late 70s, early 80s after all, but I mean, geez. I think, we'd have to sort of rethink how we name products in this day and age. Hopefully we're not calling anything with the, using the term man in it. But, of course, we moved into the iPod and the iPhone and the mobile phone, smartphone era where it allowed all of us to take music on the go. But something else happened, of course, during that period of time. There was a shift in how we worked. So not only did we have music that we listened to maybe when we were going to work, and I remember this in the late 90s, I had my own portable music. But I would actually utilize a lot of that. I would utilize that music only on the subway. When I got to the office, we had a communal stereo. But see, that shifted because now we all work by ourselves. Not a lot of us go to offices. Not a lot of us actually talk to people anymore. So it actually leaves me yearning to listen to people's voices. And I think this is one of the reasons why podcasting is actually starting to blow up. Many people might just say, hey, this is a great way to market or connect with other people. But we crave the human voice. We crave the human voice for biological reasons. We want to hear other people's voices. Because voices help us feel the closeness to another person that we get when we hear the richness of their voice. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really great things that come through the written word, but there's a lot of things that I say that I won't write. And I think you can tell from listening to a lot of my podcasts, whether you're new or you've been listening for a while, that I make mistakes when I talk, when I do these, and I leave them in. And I do that on purpose because I think as we move more toward a world of authenticity, and I wrote about this late last year on LinkedIn Pulse, I think it makes sense that, we show that we're human again. We make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. Software is not supposed to make mistakes. People can. And that's another reason that we have to, at the end of the day, really understand that people are going to do things that we don't think they're going to do. As marketers, we always think that they're going to follow this linear path, and that's just not how we live our lives. So hopefully you will jump on board and begin to use your voice a little bit more. I think it's easier than ever to produce audio, whether it's on your mobile handset, or you're producing it on your PC or your MacBook Pro, whatever equipment you're using. That's besides the point. The point is that you're doing something to create. And I think that's really the world we live in now. We want to create things because we want to get back to the fact that we're wired to create things. We're wired to be productive. We're wired to showcase expression. I think that's, at the end of the day, we're all artists in some respects. And that's a beautiful thing. So we get a lot of richness out of the worlds of art. And we should continue to do that. It looks like, for those who may have been watching my video here, that, because I also record myself, that someone tried to call me. And, of course, And of course I like that they called me. I just am not going to pick up while I'm actually recording. So yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit more of the intimacy of earbuds this year, and I think that's a good thing. Your thoughts? What's your voice, pun intended, on this discussion? Make sure you tweet to us at DisruptiveFM. Follow along on the hashtag DisruptiveFM. So I wanted to leave us on for this week's podcast with some imaginative and innovative and inspired quotes from a book that we created. Oh, wow. What year was this created again? I think this was created maybe in 2009. This was for the 10-year anniversary of an agency that I worked at called Electric Artists. And I actually owe a lot of my... my career to Electric Artists. They have a great culture. They are now known as Bond Strategy and Influence. Mark and Sarah Schiller are the operators, and they're great people. They work really a lot in the film industry now, and I've always found them to be pretty cutting edge. But I found this book that we created, and I wanted to read some things out of it to just leave you with some inspiration. After all, we are sort of the eccentric podcast for the marketing mind, so why not read some things that are interesting and maybe leave us yearning to think even more. Creativity is allowing yourself to make mistakes. Art is knowing which ones to keep. Anyone can look for fashion in a boutique or history in a museum. The creative person looks for history in a hardware store and fashion in an airport. When I am working on a problem, I never think about beauty. I only think about how to solve the problem. But when I have finished, if the solution is not beautiful, I know it is wrong. Mistakes are the portals of discovery. Life is a series of red lights followed by short bursts of green. Facts as facts do not always create a spirit of reality because reality is a spirit. Ideas are abundant. Practice giving your ideas away. If you hold on to ideas too tightly, you can convince people and yourself that you may not come up with any new ones. And of course, this is one of my favorites. I arise in the morning torn between a desire to improve the world and a desire to enjoy the world. This makes it hard to plan the day. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Looking forward to continuing our journey together as we ask what if in the world of marketing and advertising. This is Disruptive FM, the marketing podcast for eccentric minds. I'm your host, Jeffrey Colon. Namaste. You've been listening to an episode of Disruptive FM, the marketing podcast for eccentric minds. Follow us on Twitter @DisruptiveFM.